Hi everyone, very good afternoon and welcome back to CGB Mentors. In this particular class, we'll be talking about restructuring and recovery, and as usual, we will be talking about the RBI guidelines which are there, which talks about NPA, which talks about willful defaulters, right, and which also talks about that what should be your step as a regulated entity when you are dealing with restructuring. ठीक है, तो अगर आप restructuring के साथ में deal कर रहे हैं, then what should be your approach? This is what something we'll be talking about in this lecture. ठीक है, तो we'll start one by one. From the question number 1, we will start talking that first of all we learn about the NPAs, the classifications and the restructuring related case studies, right? And then we will slowly and steadily move forward. Now question number 1, Mr. Rajesh Kumar, who took a 50 lakh term loan for tractors, has defaulted on principal and interest payments for 17 months. So the loan will be classified as a substandard asset, a doubtful asset, a loss asset, a standard asset, or a non-performing asset, right? That's what has been asked to you. Now, in order to answer this particular question, you need to know that what is the classification of NPA, what is the timeline in which we have to assign any particular asset its designated category. किस time में हमें assign करना है? So let's have a look on to the answer. Because you have defaulted for 17 months and we know the definition over here, substandard asset कब तक रहती है? If you have remained NPA non-performing for a period less than or equal to 12 months, right? Beyond that, you have doubtful assets. So if you have already remained in the substandard category, ठीक है, अगर आप already substandard category में रह चुके हैं, in order to be declared as an NPA, first of all you will be declared as special mention account, right? 90 days will go there. आपके 90 दिन तो वहाँ चले जाएंगे and then you will have to spend 12 months in the substandard category. So 3 month 12 महीने total 15 महीने हो गए और यहाँ पे तो केस है आपका 17 months का. So in this particular situation, the asset would be classified as your doubtful asset. कैसे classify करेंगे हम इसको? Doubtful asset. So a loan will be classified as doubtful because now it has remained in the substandard category for a period of more than 12 months. Loss assets, when the auditors tell you and you also know, bank has identified on the inspection also that now nothing would be recoverable out of this particular account. आपको पता है कि ये जो मैंने लोन दिया था अब इसमें से एक पैसा भी बाहर नहीं निकलना है, then what we will classify it as? We will classify it as loss asset. ठीक है, किस तरीके से classify करेंगे? Loss asset. Now let's talk about the another question. So Mr. Anil Mehta has a cash credit limit of 50 lakh with ABC Bank. ठीक है, cash credit limit है. Now for the last 45 days his drawing is exceeding the sanction limit by 5 lakhs. Okay, got the option. Stock statements have not been submitted for 1 month. Balance temporarily exceeded limit due to seasonal business. ठीक है, बंदे का जो बिजनेस है वो सीजनल है और इसी वजह से जो कैश क्रेडिट लिमिट है सीसी लिमिट वो एक्सीड कर रही है. Now as per the RBI guidelines, the account should be classified as, कैसे classify करें? Substandard, doubtful, loss asset, standard asset or your non-performing asset. See, in this particular case, always remember that whenever you go on to classify any particular asset as non-performing asset, जब आप non-performing asset उसको कहना चाहते हैं, in that particular situation, always remember you can classify any kind of asset as non-performing only and only if there is a record of recovery to prove that. अगर आपको recovery में problem हो रही है तभी आप उसको क्या declare करेंगे? Only then you are going to declare it as non-performing asset. यहाँ पे हमें इस तरीके की तो कोई problem नहीं है. There is no problem related to recovery, right? So how can you classify such kind of asset as NPA? So that's why over here let's have a look. What are the guidelines that the RBI says? Availability of security, it will not be treated, right? So how do you think that an asset should be based on the record of recovery? This is on the basis of your record of recovery, right? Now, accounts with temporary deficiencies like non-availability of adequate drawing power, balance outstanding exceeding the limit temporarily, non-submission of stock statements, etc., etc. In all these particular situations, in sabhi situations में always remember that your asset will not be declared as NPA, it will remain in the standard category. हम इसको standard category में ही रखेंगे. Now next is Mr. Suresh Sharma has a working capital account with the bank with a sanction limit of 1 crore. ठीक है, इनके पास में क्या है? Working capital account है. Okay, sanction limit है इतनी. The account shows irregular drawings exceeding the sanction limit continuously for how many, for whatever number of days. Borrower's business is operating normally and financial position is satisfactory. The account was classified as NPA. Now, as per the RBI guideline, when it should be done? ये कब किया जाना चाहिए? ये कब किया जाना चाहिए? Over here you have been asked कि अब आपकी सैंक्शन लिमिट जो है वो कंटिन्यूसली एक्सीड कर रही थी, तो कब हम उसको एज एन एनपीए डिक्लेयर कर सकते हैं? सो ओवर हियर रीड दिस. नॉर्मली टेम्पररी डेफिशिएंसीज तो हमें दिक्कत नहीं करनी चाहिए, बट इफ वर्किंग कैपिटल अकाउंट हैज टू बी डिक्लेयर्ड एज एनपीए, आप इसको कब एनपीए डिक्लेयर कर देंगे? When irregular drawings are continuing for a continuous period of 90 days. ठीक है, भले ही financial position satisfactory भी हो, तब भी हम इसको डिक्लेयर कर देंगे NPA because there is a issue. ठीक है, यहाँ पे क्या issue है? The issue is that you have remained inconsistent for a continuous period of 90 days. Now, we need to find out the provision that is required to be made. What is the outstanding balance? It is given as 10 lakhs. ठीक है, CGT MSE cover क्या है? 75% of the amount outstanding or 75% of the unsecured amount, right? Now, period for which advance has remained doubtful. कितने टाइम के लिए? More than 2 years remain doubtful. वैल्यू ऑफ सिक्योरिटी हेल्ड 1.5 लाख. ठीक है, आपके पास में कितनी सिक्योरिटी है? 1.5 लाख. ओके, नाउ लेट्स हैव अ लुक ऑन टू दिस. एडवांसेस व्हिच आर कवर्ड बाय एनी पर्टिकुलर गारंटी under CGT MSE or CRG FTLIH, that is Credit Guarantee Fund Trust for Low Income Housing, or National Guarantee Trust Company Limited. In this particular case, no provision need to be made towards a guaranteed portion. अरे भाई, जिस चीज की गारंटी है उसके लिए मैं सेविंग क्यों करूंगी? उसके लिए why I have to create a provision for the amount if I already have the guarantee for it. ठीक है, इसके लिए तो गारंटी है कि ये पैसा तो मिलेगा ही मिलेगा. So what is the provision that I need to make? 10 lakhs is the balance outstanding that I know. I have to deduct the value of security, that is 1.5 lakh. I know what is unsecured amount, that is 8.5 lakh. Out of 8.5 lakh, 75% is the CGT MSE cover that I am having. ठीक है, 75% मेरे पास में क्या है? CGT MSE कवर की, इस बात की तो गारंटी है. अब मेरे पास अनकवर्ड पोर्शन कितना है? व्हाट इज द पोर्शन विच इज अनकवर्ड फॉर मी? 2.12 लाख. कितना है? 2.12 लाख. नाउ आउट ऑफ दिस फॉर सिक्योर्ड पोर्शन के लिए मैं कितना बनाऊंगी? 40%. और अनसिक्योर्ड पोर्शन विच इज दिस, ठीक है, इसके लिए कितना बनाऊंगी मैं? 100%. कितना बनाऊंगी मैं? 100%. और बाकी सिक्योर्ड प्रोविजन जो सिक्योर्ड था पोर्शन, उसके लिए मैंने कितना बनाया? 40%. कितना बनाया? 40%. Now combination of both of these, total provision required 2.72 lakh. ठीक है, total provision क्या है? 2.72 lakh. Okay, so that is the answer. Now in the following cases, find out the provision that is required to be made. Outstanding balance कितना है भाई? 4 लाख. ECGC cover कितना है? 50%. पीरियड फॉर विच द एडवांस हैज रिमेन डाउटफुल, कितने टाइम के लिए एडवांस डाउटफुल रहा है? फॉर मोर देन 2 years इट हैज रिमेन डाउटफुल. वैल्यू ऑफ सिक्योरिटी इज गिवन टू यू. वैल्यू ऑफ सिक्योरिटी आपको दी गई है. Again you need to find out that what is the provision that you need to make, what is the saving that you need to do, what is the provision that you need to make. Let's have a look. So in the cases of advances which are classified doubtful and guaranteed by ECGC, provision should be made only for the amount in excess of amount guaranteed. देखो अगर सरकार ने गारंटी दी है, so in that particular case I do not have to worry. ठीक है, मुझे तो कोई चिंता करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. So whatever ECGC guarantee has been provided, I do not have to create provision for that. मुझे उसके लिए provision create करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Now over here what is the provision that I will have to make? Outstanding balance is 4 lakh. Value of security 1.5, unrealized balance is 2.5. Now in this particular case, what is the ECGC cover that I am having? Always remember, remove the collateral. ठीक है, collateral आप पहले हटा देंगे because ECGC would like to know that what is your unsecured portion. आपका unsecured portion क्या है, उसके ऊपर हम आपको क्या देंगे? गारंटी कवर देंगे, राइट? उसके ऊपर हम आपको गारंटी कवर देंगे 1.25 लाख. Now what is your net unsecured balance? 1.25 lakh. What is the provision for unsecured portion? Unsecured portion पे मैं 100% provision बनाऊंगी and for the secured portion I'll make 40% provision. ठीक है, secured के लिए मैं कितना provision बनाऊंगी? 40% and that is going to give me my total provision. ठीक है. Now next is Mr. A has a term loan of 50 lakhs from Axis Bank. Okay, it is classified as doubtful asset for 3.5 years. The loan is secured by collateral worth 20 lakhs. Okay, unsecured portion is 30 lakhs. As per the RBI norms, what is the total provision that the bank should make? आपके पास क्या है? Term loan. ठीक है, doubtful asset है 3.5 years से. Okay, लोन इज सिक्योर्ड, कोलेट्रल है 20 लाख, अनसिक्योर्ड पोर्शन है 30 लाख. सी, आफ्टर अ सर्टेन पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम व्हेन द टाइम हैज एक्सीडेड टू मच, जब टाइम इतना एक्सीड कर जाए, देन एवरीथिंग नीड्स फुल प्रोविजनिंग. एवरीथिंग नीड्स फुल प्रोविजनिंग. ठीक है. So over here, let's have a look. Doubtful assets greater than 3 years, secured portion 100% provisioning needs to be done. Unsecured portion 100% provisioning 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs is equals to 50 lakhs. This is the provision that you need to make. आपको क्यों ये provision बनाना है? The reason being over here, you have to understand that after a certain point of time, you have to create 100% provision irrespective. See, now your asset is a loss asset. ठीक है, अब तो आपकी asset क्या हो गई है? Loss asset. Doubtful category में भी 3 साल के threshold को पार कर दिया है. So now for the secured portion as well as for the unsecured portion, you need to create the complete provision, right? There would be no leeway given to you. Now next is Mr. Anil Verma has a credit card with a limit of 1 lakh. ठीक है, minimum payment of 10,000 was due on 1st September. He made the payment on 3rd September. So now as per the RBI guidelines, what would be the penal charges levied by the bank, right? This is again a provision of your RBI circular that we are going to study in detail. This particular provision says that in relation to the credit card accounts, you need to provide some grace days. ठीक है, आपको थोड़े grace days देने पड़ेंगे. Okay, when you are going to declare it as a non-performing asset, if it is not fully paid within 90 days. ठीक है, अगर 90 दिन के अंदर अंदर इसको fully pay नहीं किया गया, then it can be declared as NPA. Otherwise, when you are going to apply the penalties and other charges, when it remains due for a period of more than 3 days, penalty आप लगा सकते हैं बट जब 3 दिन से ज्यादा के लिए आपका ड्यू हो तो, ओके। Now, Mr. Ramesh, a small business owner, had taken an unsecured business loan of 20 lakhs from the Axis Bank to expand his workshop. Due to financial stress, he has not paid any installment of principal or interest for the last 4 months. Since the loan is fully unsecured and not an infrastructure loan, calculate the total provision that the bank must make. अब there are two things which are required for me. Number one, it is an unsecured loan, so there is no security available for me. Apart from that, I have to see that for how long it has remained due, right? So the time is very important for me, okay. The security portion is something which is important for me. Apart from that, the time portion is something which is important for me. ये दो चीजें मेरे लिए जरूरी हैं, right? So substandard asset, a general provision of 15% should be made without making any allowances. Normally the unsecured portions which are identified as substandard, which will have additional 10% provision, that is total 25%. Why an additional 10%? Because of its unsecured nature. There is no availability of collateral. किसी भी तरीके की collateral की availability नहीं है, right? So that is why we will charge it. Now if it would have been an infrastructure loan, अगर ये एक infrastructure loan होता which would have been classified as your substandard asset, तब हम क्या provisioning लगाते? ये वाली. तब हम क्या provisioning लगाते? ये वाली. Now XYZ Bank has given a term loan of 10 crore to ABC Limited, okay. The loan is backed by a corporate guarantee from a reputed company, but no tangible security is charged to the bank. Okay, as per RBI guidelines, for the purpose of disclosure, how should this loan be reported? RBI guidelines के हिसाब से हमको इसको कैसे report करना चाहिए? As a secured advance, as an unsecured advance, as a partly secured advance, as a contingent liability, as an off-balance sheet exposure, right? So there are few options given to you, and over here it would be treated as an unsecured advance because guarantees are considered as intangible. Guarantees को हम क्या मानते हैं? Guarantees को हम intangible consider करते हैं. And that is why in this particular scenario we will consider that there is no any kind of collateral available. ठीक है, किसी भी तरीके की कोई collateral हमको available नहीं है, because security का मतलब होता है, collateral का मतलब होता है tangible. Okay, how it is available? Tangible. Now Mr. Ajay has taken an individual housing loan of 40 lakhs from PNB. Okay, the account is fully regular with no overdue installment. Fine. Now as per RBI provisioning norms, is there any requirement for the bank to create a provision of this particular exposure? किस तरीके का आपने लोन लिया है? Housing loan. See, any kind of loan that you might take, even if there is no sign of late payments or stress in your loan account, but still being an entity and following the accounting standards, you have to be prudent, right? आपको prudent रहने की ज़रूरत है, and you have to call for a conservative approach. आपको एक conservative approach अपनाते हुए you need to create provisions. आपको provision create करने की ज़रूरत है. Even if that means that there is nothing remains unpaid, there is no lag in the repayment schedule. किसी भी तरीके का कोई lag नहीं है. So the provisioning requirement for all types of standard assets, bank should make the general provisions. Farm credit to the agricultural activities 0.25%, advances to commercial real estate 1%, advances to commercial real estate residential housing 0.75%. तो यहाँ पे देखो individual housing loans कितने पे आ जाएंगे? 0.25%. These are the rates. Now next is Axis Bank has gross advances of 1000 crore, gross NPA of 80 crores, right? In that substandard is 40 crores with 6 crore provision. सब स्टैंडर्ड कितना है 40 करोड़ विद 6 करोड़ प्रोविजन, डाउटफुल कितना है 30 करोड़ विद 20 करोड़ प्रोविजन, लॉस एसेट कितनी है 10 करोड़ विद 10 करोड़ प्रोविजन, और स्टैंडर्ड एसेट का प्रोविजन है इतना। नेट एनपीए कैलकुलेट करने के लिए बोला है, वी ऑलवेज नो दैट नेट एनपीए इज ग्रॉस एनपीए लेस प्रोविजन, राइट, ग्रॉस एनपीए लेस प्रोविजन। अब प्रोविजन कौन सा माइनस होता है दैट यू नीड टू सी, provision only for the NPAs. So the provision that you have made for standard asset, जो provision आपने standard asset के लिए बनाया है, please exclude this, right? The provision that you have made for the standard asset, आपको वो exclude करना पड़ेगा because the provision that we deduct is just for the NPAs, ठीक है? ये किसके लिए है? बस NPA के लिए. Now moving forward, ABC Limited has foreign currency borrowings of 300 crore equivalent from PQR Bank. The bank computes ABC Limited's likely loss in relation to earnings before interest and depreciation ratio at 80% as per the RBI's unhedged foreign currency exposure direction. Now, how much incremental provision you need to make? देखो आपकी foreign currency borrowings हैं, right? We have been provided your likely loss to EBID connection also. Now over here, what is the provisioning that you need to make? Let's have a look. So over here, clearly it has been said, if it is 80%, which is greater than 75, you will have incremental provisioning requirement of 0.8%. देखो, यहाँ पे clearly कहा गया है, this is the percentage which has been provided. What is your likely loss percentages? If it falls over here, whatever provision you are creating, जो provision normally create होता है वो तो आपको करना ही है, and this is the incremental one in the addition, ठीक है? Extra में आपको ये भी create करना पड़ेगा. Now, Mr. Suresh Singh took a housing loan of 50 lakhs on April 1st, 2022 at a teaser rate of 5% per annum for first 3 years, after which the interest rate is scheduled to reset at 8%. देखो, पहले क्या है 5%, बाद में क्या होगा 8%. This is classified as standard asset and it remains standard after the rate reset. अब बताओ बैंक को कितना प्रोविजन मेंटेन करना चाहिए ऑन 1st April 2027, दैट इज 1 ईयर आफ्टर द इंटरेस्ट रेट रीसेट. जब इंटरेस्ट रेट को रीसेट किया गया है उसके बाद में फ्रॉम ऑन 1st April 2027, व्हाट इज द इंटरेस्ट रेट दैट द बैंक हैज टू, व्हाट इज द प्रोविजन दैट द बैंक हैज टू मेंटेन. अब देखो यहाँ पे कुछ चीजें, फॉलो द डेट्स, ओके. For first 3 years, what was the rate? 5%. For after which the interest rate is scheduled to reset to 8% from April 1st. आपसे किस डेट से पूछा जा रहा है? April 1st, 2027. Let's have a look onto this. See. So it has been observed that some banks follow the practice of teaser rate. Now this practice concerns some borrowers because first of all you are paying 5%, पहले आप 5% दे रहे हैं and slowly the interest rate burden has increased, ठीक है? आपका interest rate का burden जो है वो बढ़ जाएगा. So in this particular scenario, what will happen? It has been observed that many banks at the time of loan appraisal do not take into this account. That's why it has been said that the standard asset provisioning should be increased from 0.4 to 2%. ठीक है? Teaser loans पे आपका this would be the provisioning, right? Now after that, this would reset to 0.4% after 1 year from the date on which rates are reset. देखो, from 1st April 2025, April 1st, 2025, your rates are changed to 8%. ठीक है? Now we will see that if you remain consistent. If the borrower pays the amount consistently during this particular duration, we do not have any problem. ठीक है, तब तक provision would be 2% only. But from next year onwards, once the 1 year period has elapsed, the provisioning requirement will come back to 0.4%. ठीक है, provisioning requirement आपकी 0.4% पे वापस आ जाएगी. Now, ABC Bank has the following position. Gross NPA is 200 crore. Specific provision already made is 110 crore. Floating provision is 10 crore. ठीक है. Calculate the PCR, provision coverage ratio and additional provisioning required to reach the minimum regulatory provision coverage ratio of 70%. अभी आपका PCR क्या है और आपको additional provision और क्या बनाना है? Very simple. We need to find out what are total provisions. Total provisions हमारे क्या हैं? 110, 10 crores, 120 crores. Total provisions divided by your gross NPA 60%. Now what is the minimum provision required? 70%, 140 crores. तो कितना additional आपको बनाना पड़ेगा? 20 करोड़ additional आपको और बनाना पड़ेगा. ठीक है? 20 crore is something that you need to make additionally. Now XYZ Limited has a cash credit limit of 50 lakhs. ठीक है? Drawing power है 45 lakhs. Outstanding balances day 1 to day 35 47 lakh, day 36 to 75 48 lakhs. ठीक है? Now classify the account as SMA सब कैटेगरी ऑन डे 75. कौन सी कैटेगरी में आएगा ये? डे 75 में. आपकी ड्रॉइंग पावर कितनी है? 45 lakhs. Consistently you are drawing. ठीक है? Consistently. So in this particular case, you remember SMA 0 up to 30 days, SMA 1 up to 60 days, SMA 2 for more than 60 days. अगर ये आपका इस तरीके से inconsistent रहता है तो. Now this is in relation to insipid stress in loan accounts etc. For cash credit and overdraft, there are two categories: more than 30 days up to 60 days, SMA 2 up to 90 days. So what you will classify it as? SMA 2 classification, because consistently you are drawing over your drawing power. उससे ज़्यादा आप draw कर रहे हैं. So these are the questions that I'd like to discuss today. Thank you so much for joining in.